All right, joining us today on Pirate Radio Live to get you ready for your busy sports weekend. Brian North is here in a vehicle, it appears. Hey, Brian.
Hey, Clipper, just trying to take my vacation from my vacation. You know how that goes.
All right, so are you still on vacation?
Well, vacation from work, but I've returned to the nest to try and recover from the pillaging that Disney had upon my bank account.
I saw, so I'm sure you had fun in Disney, but maybe the biggest deal was seeing the ECU softball team at Bucky's, right? How random was that?
So random. So on this trip, there's a lot of things we wanted to do, and hit Bucky's was one of them. And so we hit them on the way down, and we were impressed. So on the way back from our Disney trip, rolled into the one in Florence, South Carolina. Got some food, got the kids the bathroom relief they needed. Come rolling out, there's the ECU softball team. So that was like, okay, that's my sign. Time to get back to work. But pretty cool that Bucky's becomes the meeting point for different groups of life. So it was pretty cool to see them there on their way to their season opener at the tournament in South Carolina, which starts today.
Yeah, they're kicking off or beginning their season today. East Carolina baseball in action next Friday. It seems like this happens all the time, Brian. We get like a great weather day the week
Yeah.
before first pitch, and then next week it'll be miserable. But crazy how that happens every year.
I say that. I go, plan your any vacations or outdoor activities the week before college baseball starts, and then plan for the return of Winter Point 2.0. February 14th. It always seems like it happens. Not every year, but we are going to have some more inclement weather. As my meteorologist Les Still likes to tell me, spring is the transition between winter and summer, and therefore you're going to get winter days and summer days mixed in until Mother Nature can finally get herself consistent.
What should be the expectation for Pirate fans this year, Brian? Cliff Godwin is a victim of his own success, so we expect not only a regional, but to host that regional and to
Yeah.
hopefully move on to a super. But a lot of new faces this year. Is it just hey, let's get in a regional? Is it let's host another regional? What would you set the expectation at?
It's too soon to be determined simply because he's never been through this much of a changeover in his staff or in his roster that I'm aware of. I mean, you've had years where you lose a lot of talent, but Cliff has always been more of the traditional method of building a team, and he's even had to acquiesce to the portal this year, and that includes bringing in some guys. And Cliff has always been a guy who wants you to come in and learn the program, and then 2-3 years you really get acclimated to it. Now they're like everybody else, having to learn to microwave while also building. So, look, with the success they've had, it's not like he's getting bums in there. It's just a matter of how quickly they can gel. But I would think by the end of the year, it's definitely a regional team. And I think hosting isn't outside the realm of possibility. We know the AAC isn't great in baseball, so I still think they have a good chance to win the AAC. And if you do that, I think you get a few quality wins along the way. There's still a chance to host a regional. I still think that should be an expectation that you host a regional. It's not going to happen every year, but until this new system goes through and we figure out what they have and if Cliff can negotiate the portal. No, I think you still keep that expectation of hosting a regional.
Brian, how about college baseball as a whole? It's I would say it's grown in popularity. Then again, maybe everything has with ESPN Plus and it being available for you to watch. And there are baseball hardcore guys like Mike Mullis, who we talked to, that love this time of year when he's not coaching or out at Clark LeClaire. He's turning on ESPN Plus and watching every game until he goes to sleep. So there's that. It's a niche sport, I
Yeah.
think, for a lot of folks. And is that what it will always be? Can it grow anymore? And if so, how could it grow more nationally?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we've seen it grown a lot, but I always tell people this. ECU baseball has had great success, very consistent year in and year out. And I know everybody's going to bring up the Omaha thing, but when you take away just that one little upper echelon thing, what they do year in and year out is great. The ECU basketball teams had like 3 winning seasons in 50 years or something crazy like that. But yet ECU basketball still outdraws baseball on a game per game basis. Now I know there's more games in baseball and all that, but still you have to look at where it falls in the rankings when it comes to the financials and the attendance. And it's still a sport that operates in the red, not the black. And so until they can get to the point where they operate in the black, which is a rare, I mean, only SEC teams do this, I think. Maybe some ACC teams, but you've got to really start generating more in ticket sales and ultimately more clicks when it comes to streaming. That's where the money will be made. Until it starts doing that, it'll be a nice spring sport. People want it. They just don't want it and consume it like they do football and basketball. It still hasn't reached that level yet. Getting closer, but still, people only have so much money to spend, and where do they spend it? So and baseball has what 50 something games, and usually have 20 something to 30 something home games. So
Yeah.
it's tough. I think people like it. I don't think they consume it like they do some of the other sports.
Brian, you mentioned basketball there. It was awesome to have East Carolina on a 3-game winning streak, but sometimes a sense of normalcy is good too. You don't want to get too far out of your comfort zone, and losing to Rice it feels right at home. I looked at the series. East Carolina now 9-8 overall against Rice. I swear we lose to them at least once a year when we play them. So, but man, that was brutal the other night. You're down by 23 at one point to the Rice Owls, who had lost 7 in a row. And, man, just same old for Pirate basketball. Could not make a shot from the outside. 2 of 18 from 3 for the Pirates.
It seems like every time, no matter who the coach is, but every time you get into February, there's those disappointing, oh, my God, we'll never get their losses, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly. Yeah.
And even when you have an NCAA tournament team, it's with a losing record in 1993. So you have to have some magic that'll happen there. But, and I can't quite figure it out. You and I have tried to solve this problem 100 different times, and we always have our own solutions. But Michael Schwartz, who seems like he's done a good job. They win more road games than they ever have. Now it seems like they struggle with some of the home games occasionally. So, basketball is such a, you talk about being ingrained with college baseball. How do you get it more ingrained? College basketball, some of these trends always seem to be ingrained. It's hard to get some of these programs that have never had that success get there because there's fewer quality players that have an impact on your team. And to get those guys to want to go to an ECU is hard. And so when you get guys, and then keeping them, ECU's always, before the portal was a thing, guys always wanted to leave ECU. So, man, I don't know. It's we've exhausted this conversation again and again, and its insanity is repeating the same thing and hoping for a different result. And it's just, no matter who the coach is, it just seems they run into the same glass ceilings. And I don't know, outside of cheating, which is not something we're ever supposed to talk about or condone, I don't know how you ever get that next step because it's hard. You got to get someone in there charismatic who has connections, who can make a 1 or 2 year difference and get to the tournament to get that ball rolling. And it just, outside of the one, I can't even remember the letters of the name, championship under Jeff Lebo, and then the NCAA tournament, a couple of appearances that have been so long ago. It's hard, man. And I, we can talk about all the answers again, but I think people are tired of hearing them. They just want results.
Yeah, no doubt. And I'm sure there's a group of people that want to fire Mike Schwartz. They're probably the same group that wants to just fire every coach. But
yeah, right.
I've talked to a lot of folks, and I'm one of them people that I like Mike Schwartz. I know 100% for a fact he's working his tail off. I don't love that he didn't bring in any shooters this year to help from the outside. He hit, if not a home run, or I'd say a stand-up triple with C.J. Walker, who's been awesome here for a stretch. And, RJ hasn't had a great year overall. I'll never say a negative word about him because of the blood, sweat, and tears he's poured into this program. So, like, the effort's there, but then again, a lot of people are showing effort. We want wins, and if Schwartz returns, which I think he will, he's not going to change his whole philosophy. You got to play defense and all that, but gotta bring in somebody that can stretch it and shoot it, like the dude we saw from Rice the other night hit a few daggers late in the game.
Yeah, look, it's, as we say in every sport, it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes. You got to have guys that can play. Yeah. And then in basketball, it becomes a chemistry thing too. You need 5 guys. You can't have 5 superstars. You need 5 guys who are willing to all play their role for the greater good of the fist, right? It's the old fist thing. 5 fingers, make a slap. You want to hit somebody, you got to make a fist, and everybody's got to do their own job. And that's basketball. It's my football maybe is the ultimate, but those roles are defined so much more. Basketball, everybody's a superstar coming out of high school who usually gets these opportunities, and trying to get everybody to buy in and get the right guys to do the right things. It's always the toughest chemistry thing to do. And basketball coaches, and there's so many players out there trying to find those 5 guys and then the supplemental guys off the bench to fit. Always the hardest thing. And ECU's had some great players through the years now. They
We
just,
got one at West Virginia right now, Brian Javon Small, who's a Cousy Award finalist.
yeah, right.
That's
So,
crazy.
yeah. But then the lure, and we all know the seedy side, that's become a little more public now, where you can actually negotiate over the table with contracts and with NIL and all that stuff. But there's always been the shady side with basketball players to get them under the table a lot easier. And ECU's never had any success doing that. So to have, I mean, name me the last great player that ECU's had that can take over games like that. We've had a few who can take during stretches, but I'm talking dynamic, ridiculous guys. I mean, Blue Edwards was the last great athlete, and there's been some other ones there. But when's the last NBA player we had? What was the guy?
Did Jonathan Kerner make a roster? Big white dude.
Boy, I don't ever remember that happening.
Who are you thinking of?
I'm the guy who hit the 3-pointer to
Richmond?
win the. Yes, yeah, Richmond. Yeah,
he was with I know the Rockets G League team. I don't know if he ever got on the NBA bench, but yeah, he was the closest thing.
Yeah, right. So it's and even like Gardner, you know, he big guy down low, but he just not the big body to make the NBA. So, and we've had some guys, you know, Corey Rouse, who played overseas for many years, and there's been a few guys through the years, but yeah, it's a different level talent that makes it to that 3-letter league.
Brian North joining us. Question of the week 1.0, Brian. I give you Duke and Auburn in one hand and the field in the other. What side are you taking to win the championship?
We just talked about talent, and Duke's got the talent, right? I mean, not only is Cooper Flagg a great individual scorer, but the way he's changed his game, spot-up shooting this year, distributing. If he ever gets 2 other guys, and they've got Con Knipple, favorite word for sportscasters to say on TV, you know, when he's shooting, and then you pick up one other guy, Proctor or somebody else, you need 3 guys in college basketball to win it all. And 3 guys hot, doing their own roles at the same time, and then some other role guys going on. So just watching Duke, I've watched Duke more than Auburn this year. Now, I would take one of those 2 over the field right now because the rest of the field's so inconsistent. But any team who gets hot at the right time, God bless them. But
yeah, I'd have to go field, but I came in this week again like wanting to say it's Duke versus everybody, but then you look at Auburn, 1 loss in probably the best conference this year, the SEC. I mean, it's very impressive. So, looking forward to, you know, the conference tournaments and the NCAA tournament again, and it should be a lot of fun. I am starting to enjoy now that football is leaving us, watching college basketball from night to night, and seeing all the quote-unquote upsets, which there really aren't. Everybody's kind of even. Home court, Brian, what sport has the biggest, you know, home field advantage swing? I mean, I think, is it college basketball? Maybe it's just because there's so much parity, but night in, night out, week in, week out, you see 5 top 10 teams lose.
Yeah.
I feel like college basketball might be the answer. What would you say to that in sports?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of that has to do with portal and new guys and the inconsistency you get now without having guys together all the time, I think contributes to some of that. So, but it definitely helps. I mean, ECU's had that home court advantage through the years. You always would mark down 1 or 2 upsets at home at Minji's Coliseum, no matter how bad the team was. So I still think college basketball is right up there. I think college football is pretty big advantage too when you factor in weather later in the year and teams that play in it and teams that can't. But no, I think college basketball, and when you take out the factor of having guys play 3 years together anymore and this transfer portal, I just think you set yourself up for inconsistent play a lot more.
Weather will not be a factor for this year's Super Bowl. Here's a question I asked a couple of weeks ago, Brian, and it turned out to be a pretty valid question because we saw, I can't remember what weekend it was, but I'm pretty sure it was, you know, Washington and Detroit are playing in a nice room temp dome, and then you've got the Eagles running, Saquon Barkley running through the snow, and I guess I asked it two different ways. Like, what would you rather watch as a viewer, or you know, do you think every game should be played in the dome? Do you like the elements? Because I think there's sides to both. We want to
Right.
see the best athletes in the world playing in good conditions so they can go out there and do their thing. When there's snow, it just changes so much. It was the Rams because they
Hmm.
kept struggling holding on to the ball
Yeah.
and everything that game. So what's your answer to that? Do you like the elements? Do you like the room temp?
So as a sportscaster who's covered both now, and I've covered the Panthers and their runs, I've covered playoff games in Chicago and Philadelphia, and I covered a Super Bowl in the Dome in Houston, and between the Patriots and the Panthers, and I thought that helped the performance of both teams. After a slow start, they really got going.
Yeah.
Look, you're talking. You want home field to matter, and the elements go with that. So we've seen the Miami Dolphins with all their talent struggle anytime the temperature gets below a certain degree, and so the purist in me likes it outside, even though it's miserable to watch as a fan and miserable to cover. But there's something to it, right? It makes it more memorable. It makes it mean more during the regular season to get that home field advantage. Um, so I'm good either way. I think talent rises to the top, and you find out who really wants to play. And I always like the challenges of life. So give me the outdoor stadium still, even though you want to see the best talent perform at its highest level. I still think there's something about overcoming adversity and watching Mother Nature be one of those adversities. Give me the outdoor stadiums.
Brian, you got Chiefs or Eagles this
Yeah.
Sunday?
So the Eagles are the more talented team, but the
Yeah.
Chiefs have the better quarterback and the better head coach, right? So, um, what's it come down to? I think Super Bowls come down to head coaches and quarterbacks, and I think the Chiefs' defense is built better to stop Saquon Barkley. So I like the Chiefs in a lower scoring game. If it's gonna come out the way I think, lower scoring game, and I say lower scoring like last second field goal by Butker, so like 24-21 Chiefs is kind of that's my gut feeling. But after going to Disney and eating that food, I don't trust my gut right now.
Let's do a Disney recap before we let you go. What was your favorite attraction or ride or thing you did there?
So we had a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, and it was a magical time for the 6-year-old who still believes in all the princesses and the Disney characters, but loves the roller coasters
All right.
and all the stuff. Where the 4-year-old loves the characters and loves some of the roller coasters, but don't take her on a 3D ride. The mind doesn't process that, so I had to carry a crying child out of some of the 3D rides a couple of times. So it was right that sweet spot. We did
Yeah.
a breakfast with Cinderella and her friends,
Oh
which
yeah.
watching the kids' faces light up around the characters, and
Is that the one
that's
where
what.
like the mean stepsisters are there or whatever too?
No,
That
this is the
oh okay.
breakfast. We meet Cinderella, and she's really nice, and then you go and Ariel and some princess I've never heard of, and Aurora, but they come out. But my kids are in that little magical time right now where later on down the road, that won't be special to them. The rides
Yeah.
they'll always love.
Yeah.
So I think for this trip, it was the magical nature of the rides and getting pictures with characters. Like they'd wait in line an hour just to get a picture with Buzz Lightyear and would freak out for 30 seconds with him, and it was the greatest thing ever. Or the little one patting Donald Duck on the belly and saying, "Your belly's soft like my dad," which pissed me off. But
Oh man.
yeah, so but that magical moment I think of this trip was great. But the roller coasters were so much fun. I mean, anytime you have rides and the kids enjoyed it. But
That's
this, I
great.
think for me, I'll categorize this trip as just the magic of the princesses and the characters.
Brings back some memories, Brian.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. North, have a good weekend, man. Appreciate you joining us. You got any Super Bowl plans? Or you just chilling at the house?
I forgot the Super Bowl was this Sunday until yesterday. So
Well,
when you're
you've been occupied. So.
yeah, when you're a little occupied, you forget that all the hype that's built up that you're normally a part of. So no, just probably watch it at home. I got to work Monday morning, and our meteorologist Les Still is a huge Eagles fan, so I'll have to deal with that if they win. But no, I just casual night, try and get some good sleep before, so I can step and watch as much as possible.
Mr. Old School, are you okay with one day moving the Super Bowl to Saturday so we
Yeah,
can?
I think it
Okay,
would be smarter. I think it'd be
good.
smarter to do. I've always, I mean, Sunday's great, but we've moved other things, right? There used to be day World Series games, and no one's complained about that. So I have no
Yeah,
problem moving it to Saturday night. I think work productivity on Monday is way down because of it. I think it's stupid now. Saturday night just seems like it should be, but the Super Bowl wants to milk the whole weekend. So
Yeah.
I get
Let's
that
go
too.
Saturday. Let's go to Saturday, Goodell.
All
All right,
no
North.
problem.
Appreciate
You ever been
buddy.
to a Bucky's? You ever been to a Bucky's flip?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, you got to get there.
Jarrett's a big fan. He was telling me about it. So
they're opening one up in Mebane soon. So yeah, we'll get you there. Yeah.
What's your
you
line,
look like
Jarrett?
a Bucky's.
All the stuff you can get there. What'd you say? Brisket sandwich.
Yep. Had one.
Pocket knife.
Did not get one.
A whole wardrobe.
Yes. Did get some shirts. And the Bucky's nuts. And yeah, the Bucky's nuts or whatever they're called. Yeah, you got to get some of those too.
All right, good stuff. Brian North now sponsored by Bucky's. North, we'll see you, bud.
Clip for later.